the first thing we're going to do in lesson 4.6 is we're going to use the slope and the y-intercept to help us get the graph of the line for a given linear function that all we know about it is its slope and its y-intercept. But that's enough information. So in number 1, we have a linear function who has its slope is 2/3, its y-intercept is 2. Okay, so if that's its slope and its y-intercept, the y-intercept can be our starting point. Okay, so let's put that in our notes that actually this right here, oopsie, I guess I should have a pen. This right here is our starting point. Okay, so would you put right below that starting point? So there's our starting point. Y-intercept means where the graph crosses the what?
Y-axis.
Y-axis. So we're going to go put a point at positive 2 on the y-axis. So go to the y-axis and plot a point at positive 2. That's our starting point for our line. Now if it has a slope of 2/3, remember slope is rise over run. Rise over run. So we're going to put that, we're going to write it in that form, we're going to say rise over run equals, what's the rise for this one?
2.
2, because it has a slope of 2/3, so its rise is 2 and its run is 3. Well, when we are talking about rising 2, we have 2 options. What can we do? We can either go up 2 or down 2.
It doesn't matter, it's still against the line.
But the thing is what we need to make sure is we're going to end up with a positive slope, right? Because 2/3 is a positive, so we got to make sure that it's going to go in the positive direction behavior-wise. So when we talk about it as a positive 2 over a positive 3, we are talking about going 2 up and 3 to the right. Okay, would you put this in your notes? This is how you're going to show me how you decided to make your graph. So we have that option, or, and I want you to put an or here, we have another option. Because sometimes the graph, where the starting point is, we get kind of restricted and we can't do the direction that we decided we were going to go, and we have to pick another direction. So tell me, how else can we get a positive number when we do dividing? A positive divided by a positive is a positive, but how else can we get it, Josh? A negative divided by a negative is also a positive, isn't it? So we can make that 2 negative, and we can make that 3 negative. And we're going to work with both of them. We're going to get in the habit of learning how to work with it. The slope will always have 2 names. And so if we're talking about a negative 2, what do we do then? Do we go up or down? Now we go down. And if we're talking about a negative 3, what direction do we go?
Left.
Left. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to that starting point that we put on there, and we're going to use the first one, the 2 up and the 3 to the right. So we're going to start here at our starting point, and we're going to go up 2 and 3 to the right, and we're going to plot our point. And then we're going to go back to the other one. Now we're going to use the other one, and we're going to go back to our starting point. And we're going to say, I can go down 2 and 3 to the left. And hopefully, our points will line up in a linear pattern. Do your points seem to line up in a linear pattern?
Yes.
You have to get, unless the graph will not hold up, you have to have a minimum of 3 points on your graphs tomorrow in your homework, okay? Okay, somebody's been keeping some of my rulers, apparently. So would you draw the line through your 3 points, please? And go all the way through the graph with your line like we were doing another time, I remember, when we were graphing with x and y intercepts or a table. And we put arrows at both ends showing that that line really goes on indefinitely in both directions. Does the behavior of our line match the slope?
Yes.
Yes. It's rising from left to right, it had a positive slope, feeling good about this one. Okay, now I want you to notice something because when we went up 2 and 3 to the right and we ended up here, maybe you're wondering why didn't we just go down 2 from there and 3 to the left? Well, we can go down 2 and 3 to the left, but look at where we end back up. We end up back at our starting point, so we can go down 2 again and 3 to the left. So typically, what you do is just go back to that starting point. Use the rise and the run one way from that starting point, use the rise and the run again, the other rise and run, and go back to the starting point again. Okay, so let's look at number 2. What's our starting point?
-3.
-3. Would you circle that and put starting point? And then let's just go to the graph and start, put it on there. So we're gonna go to -3 on the y-axis and put our point, our y-intercept. And then we're gonna say, okay, well, I'm gonna have 2 rises over runs. Okay, since the slope is -1,
When you put it over 0?
can you put it over 0?
Yes.
How do you make something into a fraction? By putting it over 0? In other words, would -1 divided by 0 still give you -1?
No,
So you have to put it over 1.
You'd have to put it over +1, wouldn't you? Yeah. So we have a -1 over a +1, which means we would go down for this one and right. Down and right. But then let's put our OR situation. We get an OR situation too. We can do a rise and a run. That would also create some more points and still have a -1 slope. What happens if I say I want the rise to be a +1? What would I have to divide a +1 by that would still give me a -1? I'd have to divide by -1, wouldn't I? So we can give the negative sign to the downstairs instead. So we can say, you know what? Rise says, I don't want to be the -1. Run, you be the -1. Because a positive divided by a negative is still a negative. And then now we would go up and to the left this time from it. So we're going to start at our starting point, and we're going to use both of those rise and runs. So we're going to go in this one, we're going to go down 1 and 1 to the right. That will give us a point. We're going to go use this one where we would go back to our starting point. We'd go up 1 and 1 to the left, and we'll have our third point. You can draw your line. So we're going to use each of our rises and runs. Each of them they each get their turn. You can think of it. We extend it all the way through the graph, arrows at both ends. Not just a little short little line going in the middle or extend it through the graph. And then ask yourself, do I like the behavior of this line according to the slope? Isaac?
How did you get?
Well, he's not following along, so.
Okay. So do we like the behavior of this line? Do we like the behavior of this line?
Yes,
Why?
because it's negative.
Because it's falling from left to right, and the slope was negative, yeah. The slope was negative, our line is falling from left to right, that's a good thing. Okay. So anybody have questions on these first two before we move on? What we're showing here, that's what you gotta show in your homework, okay? Okay, so, let's start with, what's our starting point?
2.
2. Okay, 2 on the y-axis is our starting point. So this is our, you know what, let's call it SP, so you don't have to write that all the time. Starting point. Start here. Okay, and we're going to go on the y-axis and put a point at +2. So we start. And then we're going to do rise over run 2 different ways. Rise over run, rise over run. We've got 2 of them we have to name. What are two possible things we can do. Well, it's a -3/2 slope. And the negative sign, notice, isn't assigned to either the 3 or the 2, it's out front. So it has a negative slope, right? Well, to get a negative when you're dividing, what has to be true? How many of them have to be negative? Both the numerator and the denominator, or just one of them? Just one of them, right? Because if you give them both a negative sign, what happens? Then it becomes a positive. A negative divided by a negative will become a positive. So we can only give that negative sign to either the rise or to the run. So we're going to give it to the rise first. Let's give it to the rise the first time. And then in the other one, we're going to give it to the run instead. Okay? And then we're going to say, okay, in this one, the rise is negative, so I got to make sure I go down. And the run is positive, so I have to make sure I go right. In the other one, we're letting the rise be the positive this time, so that tells me I'm going to go up. And we let the run be the negative, that means we're going to go left. So, go to your starting point, make 2 more points using each of those rise over runs, and let's see if we all get the same line. Everybody get the same line I did?
Yeah.
Do we like it?
Yep.
Why? Convince me why. Convince me why we're so good. Cameron?
It's falling from left to right.
It's falling from left to right, and why is that a good deal?
Here's me.
Go ahead, Cameron.
The slope is negative.
The slope is negative, yeah. The slope is negative, so it should be falling from left to right. So we're at least feeling good about that much, right? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so any questions or concerns? How much of this do you have to show in your homework?
All of it.
All of it. All of it. There is no exception to the rule. So don't come back tomorrow and be mad at me when your paper's sitting on the corner of my desk because, again, you decided to make your own rules. I don't do this to torture you. I do it because I know what works for students. I've been doing this long enough. Not as long as my gray hair would think it looks like I've been doing it, but I've been doing it long enough. Okay? Okay, so let's go on to number 4. So what's the starting point, Riley? 0. Okay, so let's circle that on here. And let's put that our starting point is 0. So what does that mean? Before we even do anything else, what are we going to do? Josh, what are we going to do? Now that we've identified the starting point, what are we going to do? Yeah, we're going to put it on the graph, right? So we're at? At 0 on the y-axis, which turns out to be right in the middle at the origin, right? So we're going to put that point right here at the, as you guys call it, the middle, where the 2 axes cross. In other words, really what we're doing is putting it at y equals 0 on the y-axis. That's what we're doing, okay? And now we're ready to do our rise over run 2 different ways. We have a
Really, really.
or situation, right? Okay, so the slope is a positive 1/4. So what can I use for one of my rise over runs? Stefan?
You can keep it at 1 minute.
Okay,
Slowly, right.
Okay, so we can leave it as it is, 1/4, and we can go up 1 and right 4. That's one of our options. That's another option. Another one of the options here. Yeah? Go ahead and try it.
You change the positive number to a negative number, like negative 1 and a negative 4.
Yeah, but both of them can be negative. Because a negative divided by a negative is also a positive. So give them both a negative sign. And then we would go down and left. Okay, make that line. Use both of those. Minimum of 3 points unless the graph won't hold 3, but I'm pretty sure it's going to hold it. I'm feeling good about it. Nope, that's your going across the conversion. Just don't take my picture and just let's do it from here. So this would be down 1, forward, left. Now let's do the other one. Up 1, forward, okay, do we like the behavior of our line? In other words, we don't stop until we ask ourselves that question. We don't move on to the next problem. We say, I had a positive slope, so that means my line better be rising from left to right, is it?
Yes.
And it is, so we're feeling pretty good about that. Okay. Okay, so let's set you loose on number 5 on your own. You're gonna get everything set up about it. Get everything set up. Identify your starting point. Both rise over run names. Here, starting point is 3. Our rise over run can be treated 2 different ways. You can give the negative, let the 2 keep the negative sign, and put it over 1. Or we can say, you know what, now that 1 has joined downstairs, the rise can give the negative sign to the downstairs to the run and be positive instead. In other words, when you have a negative slope, only one of them can be negative. One of them has to be negative. So we go down, we go right. We go up, we go left. And hopefully you're making the points from the starting point. You're not just looking at mine or copying the points and saying, you know, I got to say what she does. You got to know how to get them. How do you make it happen? And again, you check out the behavior of the line, see if it's a good behavior. Okay. Did you get the same one I did? We have a match? Okay. Now let's do one last one here. So we get to work on your homework. So starting point is, what's the starting point on this one? 5. Okay, let's go put a point at 5. Oh, there it is, way at the top. Okay, the slope is a -1/2. So what's one of our options?
Negative 1.
No, you gotta get that negative sign somewhere. You gotta assign it. So Brian, where do you want to assign it for the first time?
-1/2.
-1 over +2. Emerson, what's another choice?
1 over -2.
1 over -2. We have both of those options. So we're gonna go down and right. Or we have the option of going up and left. Well, right now, we would do something that's saying to you, wait a minute, I put my starting point at the very top of the graph, how am I gonna go up? Can we? Unless we want to work downward grid lines, do we want downward grid lines? I don't. So can we use the same right over run twice and ditch the other one? Yeah. They both mean the same thing, they just are different directions to get it is all. So we can use, this one's gonna be worthless to us, isn't it? Go up one, we're not gonna like that one. So we're saying, you know what? This one's kind of worthless in our graph right now, so we're gonna use this one. We're gonna go down 1 and 2 to the right. But we're not gonna go back to the starting point again. We're just gonna keep going. Down 1 and 2 to the right. So you can keep going in the same direction, the major points also. Okay, so we still have our 3 points. We just use the same rise over run twice instead of the other one. And that's okay. Trey?
Why didn't you do that the entire time?
Why didn't, because I want you to know how to use both rise over run and how to name them, that's why. And not every time will you not have room to go up, it'll take you off the graph. But this is just one of those times it does. So, do we have good behavior for this one?
Yes.
It's falling from left to right. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Yes, because it has a negative slope.